See, I put three quarter words together at the same time. And this is a new edition of In My New Home. Now, last week was your inaugural show,
Yes.
and I know that you got a lot of feedback, and people had questions, and you've been dealing with answering a lot of those questions and helping a lot of people.
Yes, we have. So thank you so much. We did get a lot of good feedback from the show. People are interested in home ownership. They do have some barriers to home ownership that we, want to help them overcome. So we've been spending some time this week doing just that.
Okay, yeah, I mean, because you think about it, for most people, home ownership is like a dream, but it's a dream that some people don't think that they can ever really obtain. They can't really grab a hold of it because maybe they might not come from a family where people owned homes. And for them, the whole thing is a mystery.
Yes, and I always like to start with a statistic.
Mhm.
So 45 to 47% of Black people own homes, compared to white counterparts where it's 70%. So home ownership today is about the same that it was back in 1965 before we had fair housing laws,
Wait a
right?
minute. Wait a minute. So today, only 47% of African Americans own their own homes
Correct.
versus 70
Percent of our white
of
counterparts. Yes,
well, we have to
absolutely.
change that statistic.
Yes, and that's what we're trying to do because, as we know, for middle class folks, your home is usually your largest asset,
Yes.
right? And that's where you start to build that generational wealth, that legacy wealth. So when your parents don't own a home, they don't pass that down to you. And so therefore you have to start, right? So I like to look at it if you think of it as a race,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So if everybody start at the start line,
Hmm.
and as you make your way down the track, you
Hmm.
hand over the baton,
Hmm.
right? So if your parents don't own the home, you're standing shoulder to shoulder with them when they hand the baton over. There is no movement, right?
Right.
So therefore, if we look at it like you're running this race and you want to be able to slap that baton in your kid's hand and then
Hmm.
they run a little bit further and slap it into their kid's hand, because we know that you build wealth for your grandkids,
Right.
right?
Right. Right.
So you want to start building wealth through home ownership, because that's the easiest way to do it. That's how you build wealth while you sleep through this wonderful thing called equity.
Okay. So give me like an example. I think you talked last week about a couple that you had helped,
Hmm.
and you talked about the wealth that they had been able to begin building in actual dollars and cents. So explain
Absolutely.
to me, okay, so I buy a house today, okay, and let's say that house is like one of the houses that you have, right?
Yes. Hmm.
Okay, so break down the numbers for me.
Okay, so say you build a house today for 224.5. That's what we're selling them for on our Peters Grove development
Well,
in
wait, hold it,
Warren,
time out. $224,000.
for a brand new home. Yes.
Okay, that sounds great, but man, I mean, I don't know if I can afford a $224,000 house.
So let's put that in perspective.
Okay, please.
Okay. So if you're paying roughly about $1,500 a month for rent,
Hmm.
that's what your payment would be.
Oh,
Yes. And so most people are paying more than that for rent. So $1,500 a month is basically what your payment would be, because we have a special loan product where there's no PMI. We have an NEZ, which makes your taxes lower for 8 years. So we've tried to remove all the barriers that we could remove in order to get you into new housing. We also receive money to help bring down the construction costs, because, as you know, there is no way that you can build a brand new home for $200,000. It's just not happening, right?
right.
So, yep. So, as an organization, we believe firmly in the power of home ownership. And our goal is to do everything that we can to remove those barriers, particularly those systemic barriers
Mm.
that prevent people from getting into home ownership. And so, through our Peters Grove development, that's exactly what we did.
Okay, so you need to give out the number because I know that somebody's listening right now and they're excited. It's like, ooh, 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 I want to own a home.
Yes, our phone number is 586-393-1605. Again, that's 586-393-1605.
Okay, so what you're saying to me, and this is going to be like a mindset shift for a lot of people that are listening, is that if I'm spending $1,500 a month on rent, that I can actually own. Well, first of all, $1,500 a month. What is that? Is that two bedrooms usually? That sounds like it's about a two-bedroom apartment.
Normally it would be, right? But for this could be a three-bedroom home with two full bathrooms, brand new, a one-car attached garage. So basically, for what you're paying for rent and you're building wealth for your landlord, you can take those dollars and start to build wealth for you and your family through home ownership.
Wow, that's crazy. So I can actually fire my landlord.
You can definitely do that.
And I can put all of that money because as you make mortgage payments, that money starts to build up. And that's what you're talking about when you talk about wealth creation, because
Correct.
it's not like it's just going out.
Yeah, so how it works is that you would build wealth two ways in home ownership.
Yes.
One is through just naturally paying down your mortgage payment. With every payment that you make, a portion of that goes towards your loan, and then that becomes equity in the home, right? So equity is the difference between the value of your home and what you owe on your home. So that's equity. So you capture that through making your monthly payments. And then the other way is just over time your house can increase in value. And that also adds to that
Creating more wealth.
more wealth. Absolutely. So let's put it in perspective. So we talked about the home ownership among African Americans and versus our white counterparts, right? So in Warren, we're building these homes. So let's just say your parent, had a home that they had built in Warren back in, you know, 30s or 40s, or your
Or the
grandparents.
60s. Yeah,
Yeah, or the
yeah.
60s, and the house was maybe 13, 14, $20,000. Okay, because
Hmm.
that's the houses were
Right,
relatively cheap back then.
right.
So, but now that same house is worth 200, 300,000. So that equity transfers to the kid or the grandkid, right? So now they can use that money to tap into that to start businesses. They send their kids to college so they have no student loan debt, which we see a whole lot of. So that is the way to start building generational wealth. So, and it's only because you own the asset and you held it over time. And that's how you create the equity in the home and start to build that wealth that we're talking about.
Man, you just made a light bulb go off in my brain because I'm thinking about this. Okay, you're absolutely right. So if my mom and dad had bought a property for $12,000, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
back in 1960 or something like that, right?
Right.
In Warren,
Yeah.
and held on to it and paid it off, that same thing, that same piece of property today is worth $300,000. You guys wrap your minds around this, okay? That same piece of property today is worth $300,000 and it's in your family. And that's what Faye is here talking about this morning is ways to create wealth. You know, the Bible says that the wealth of the wicked is stored up for the righteous.
Mm-hmm.
And we hear that scripture all the time, but so many of us are not living it. And that's why I thank God that you're here today because you actually have the keys to the door to unlock that promise from God. Listen, somebody needs to stop renting. I'm going to tell you right now, stop renting. If you are in a two-bedroom apartment, right, and you're spending $1,500, you got three kids in a two-bedroom apartment.
Yes.
You and your significant other can't even, y'all are all sharing one bathroom.
Yes. And in these houses, you can have your own bathroom, right? So you have a separate bathroom from the kids, which is amazing to have.
That means wait a minute. That means because men, and you know how we like to get up early in the morning and we like to go use the washroom. That means I don't have to leave my bedroom to do that. I can just go.
Absolutely, right in your own room. So
Man, you preaching now, boy. I will tell you what. Give out that number again.
the number is 586-393 1605. Again, it's 586-393-1605.
Okay, thank
Yes.
All right, here it's time for the 800-pound gorilla in the room.
Okay.
Credit.
Yes. That is usually
Always
the
a heavy
barrier.
one.
Landlord on time. And are you paying him in a way that it can be traced? Not giving your landlord cash. Like, please don't do that. Always have it documented. Get a receipt, show it coming out of your bank account the same time every month, because that's how it's sourced. Like, we got to understand, like, are you paying? We can't pull your credit and see how you're performing because you don't have a lot of
Mm-hmm.
credit. But if we could look at how you pay your landlord, and if you're paying them on time and you're not paying them in cash, then we can source that and a lender would be happy with that information. So
Okay.
they have alternative credit that you can use.
Mm-hmm.
So even if your credit score isn't the strongest, there still may be some help for you. Now, just say that you like, you know what, that's not the problem. I just, I had some things, life happened.
Right.
And I got behind on a few things and I need a little help trying to navigate that space.
Right.
That's when you would come in, and we have a nonprofit organization that we work through that would help you with that. So we would do an audit of your credit report, see where the deficiencies are, and help you put together a plan to execute to get your credit score to a spot where we know lenders would be willing to lend you their money.
Okay. You know what I like about talking to you? Uh, you can tell that Faye Baker is well studied and she knows her stuff. So just like, whatever your job is, and you go to your job and you know it, well, you know what? When it comes to getting you into a home, Faye Baker knows her stuff. She knows the program. She's already gone ahead of you and figured out a way that you can own this home. Okay. And I just want to reiterate that over and over again because a lot of people, they're like, well, okay, you talked about my credit. Well, okay, yeah, and I do have some credit issues, but what about this? I heard that in order to get into a home, that I have to have $10,000, $15,000 in the bank down to put on it. And look, Faye, I don't have that. So now what are you gonna do?
So most people don't have that,
Okay.
right? So it's very difficult to save money for a down payment on a home and continue to pay rent, right? So with the cost of living, it's just not something that you can do. So there are lenders that have down payment assistance programs. The state has down payment assistance programs. There's money to help you get into home ownership if that's what you desire. But you'd have to come in, let us take a look at your situation because everybody's different, right?
Mhm.
And as I stated, there are different loan products for different financial situations. And in order for us to align you properly, we have to see exactly where you are because it's not a one size fit all. So, again, if down payment assistance is the issue, there is money out there. There is an opportunity for you to use other folks' money to start building wealth for your family.
Okay, so give the number and then I'm gonna ask you a question.
Yep, the number is 586-393-1605. 586-393-1605.
Okay, so Faye.
Yes.
All right, so I'm listening to you and you're talking good. You're using, all those nice quarter words, talking about NEZ and ABC and using, all the alphabet. So what do I need? Okay, look, I'm gonna give you my situation. Okay. Um, I'm married. I make about $40,000 a year. My wife makes about 35, 40. So, things a little tight.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Um, do we make enough money to have a 3-bedroom home in Warren with 2 bathrooms and an attached garage?
Yes, you absolutely make enough money. And so, again, what we would need you to do is to come in and see us. Sometimes people have more, they have income, but they're not good stewards over their money, right?
Yeah, because I mean, I make 40, my wife makes 40. I don't feel like we're like balling.
Right. No, because sometimes your money don't have a purpose. When you assign a purpose to your money, then you can track it better. So that's what we help you do. We help you understand what your money could buy. Because sometimes you're spending money and you're not aware. You're into fast food restaurants, you're doing all these other things and you're thinking, oh, that's just $20 or that's just $30. The next thing you know, if you pull your bank statement, you spent over $1,000 on things that you really didn't need because you didn't assign a purpose to your money. And so by coming in to see us, allowing us to help you put together a budget to understand where your money is going. So a budget isn't to restrict you, it's to help you understand what your money is doing because ultimately once you buy the house and you're doing well in that, you really should start investing, but that's a whole nother thing, right?
Uh-oh,
So
you taking me too fast, man. I'm
right,
still
so
trying to wrap
let's
my
let's
head
wrap our
around getting
mind
the
around
house.
the house, right?
Right.
So yeah, so absolutely, we know we can help you identify where the gaps are in your budget,
Okay.
understand, what you can tighten up,
Hmm.
and helping you to actually see that because if you like sometimes people will call and say, well, I'm working on my credit. My question is, how long have you been doing this? How long have you been working on your credit? Well, it's been a couple years. Well, if it's taking you that long, you might need some help,
Hmm.
and so we would ask that you come in and see us just to get a plan in place. If you're ready today, let's say you're in your lease and your lease isn't up for another 5, 6, 7 months,
Yeah.
you still should come in today. That way you can identify the plan, start executing the plan, and so when those 7 months are up, you're in your new home. So you got to start early. The earlier you start, the better.
Hmm. So, all right, because that's a good point because we've been joking around saying, hey, it's time for you to fire your landlord.
Right.
But when it comes down to it, there actually is a process uh, involved in getting out of your apartment, wherever that is,
Yes.
where you're just giving up all your money and into the home. So let's talk about that process.
Yes. So what you would do again is you would call 586-393-1605. Again, 586-393-1605. And you would come in, you would allow us to do an audit of your credit so that we can identify any deficiencies that you may have. We would put together a plan for you to execute so that when your lease is up and you're ready to move into your new home, you can do that. But again, you have to start early because you don't want to wait until your lease is due, your lease is up. Now you're trying to negotiate a month to month and the rent goes up and it's even more onerous on you because you can't, keep up with this high rent and you have to focus on trying to buy a new home. So start early. The earlier you start, the better. And that also helps us to align you with the right lender and find down payment assistance for you as well if that's what you require.
Okay, all right. So I checked my credit
Hmm.
and I mean, it's not the best credit, but it's not the worst credit. Like I got like a 650.
Okay.
Is that a good enough credit score to get a home?
It depends. It
Okay.
could be. So again, when we talk about score, we also want to know what's on the report.
Okay.
So if your score is 650 and you've been paying your bills on time, you're not over leveraged in your credit, then yeah, you're ready. You're right there as it relates to credit. But if it's 650 and you had some collections on there and you had some things that dinged your credit, then we need to address those things, right? Because a lender is not only going to look at your score, they're going to look at the actual activity that's hitting the credit report as well. So, what we would need to do again, you come in, we'd have the first look before you go over to your lender. Because what I don't want to happen is you're like, you know what, I'm going to go to the lender and get approved. They tell you no. Now you feel defeated. You go away, you continue to rent, and then you're kind of discouraged from getting into that home ownership process because you were told no. So we try and help you get to the yes. by looking at your information ahead of time, aligning you with a lender that will tell you yes, right? So the first step again is to come in, give us a call at 586-393-1605 so that we can help you start the process.
Awesome. I'm glad that we're having this conversation because when you think about it, a lot of people, when you just say, "Oh, you can get a home," they're like, "Yeah, right." They don't believe you because they've never been through the process. But it sounds like you've been through the process and you've helped people to get through the process. You're like, you know what? You're like the Harriet Tubman of home ownership.
Yes, and sometimes I feel that way. I promise you I do. I've been doing this for a very long time, and I've been in real estate for about 25 years.
Mhm.
I started out as an investor,
You look like
so
you're about 25.
oh well, thank you. So I've been doing this for a very long time, starting out as an investor, so I understand wealth building. I understand what being a landlord can do,
Hmm.
right? But I also understand how it positioned me buying my first house when I was 21 years old, and then taking the equity out and buying the second house, and then just the light bulb came on, like, oh my God, like I made this money just simply by living in this home, and so I thought that if I could share this information with other people, they could then start to build wealth as well. So that's why, like, I've been a landlord for a very long time.
Hmm.
For yeah, over 25 years I've been a landlord. So I understand. Like I always tell my kids, rent is the gift that keeps on giving. Rent is the thing that positioned them so that they had no student loan debt.
Right.
Rent is the thing that positioned them so that they could buy their first home. Rent is the thing that positioned them so that they can do the things that they enjoy doing, right?
Right.
But I believe that we should all have that opportunity if we desire it,
Absolutely.
and so one of the things that we lack sometimes is just simply information
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
having someone that we can trust to help get us across the finish line.
Okay.
And so I built my business around helping first time home buyers do just that. Start the process, get into your first home, start building wealth for your family, because I know what it can do. I know how it can give stability to your kids because they're not moving from neighborhood to neighborhood and not being able
Yeah.
to put down roots, keep moving schools, and so it's helpful. I mean, it's just a positive all the way around.
Now, these homes that you have, do they have backyards?
They do have backyards, absolutely. So we're building right now, we're building 20 single family homes that are ranch style homes as well as colonial homes.
Okay.
So 2 stories and 1 story
Okay.
homes.
All right.
And so they are anywhere between 3 bedrooms with 2 bathrooms or 2.5 bathrooms, a nice size backyard as well so that your kids can have somewhere to play. And then,
Mm.
too, because this is workforce housing. So when we talk about this housing and the program for it and the income requirements and things like that, this is still workforce housing. So this is like your factory workers, your nurses. We actually have a new physician. She's starting her residency,
Hmm.
and she's buying
Oh
there.
wow. Okay.
So this is like,
So what, I hate to interrupt you, but
mhm.
so you're buying into a good neighborhood with working people that are gonna work, that are gonna be alongside of you, keeping the community up.
Yes, and that's the goal, right? So that is why we're doing home ownership. This is why it's workforce housing. These are people that have income, they go to work every day, but they find it difficult to find affordable housing. And so they're being over leveraged in rent. And so if you're paying more than $1,500 a month for rent, you can own your own brand new home. And this is you'll be owning with other people who are also working every
Right.
day.
Right.
So this is workforce housing,
So not Section 8.
not Section 8, not low income housing,
Okay.
not government housing. This is giving everyday working class people a chance to take part in the American dream of homeownership.
Man, give out that number again, and then we only have maybe 3 or 4 minutes left. You'll
Yep,
have to
the
remember.
phone number is 586-393-1605. Again, 586-393-1605.
All right, Faye Baker, that's who we're talking to this morning. Again, In My New Home is the name of the show. We're going to be on every Saturday morning with great information.